Hey guys, it's Anthony from the Xbox Boomer channel here with you, and welcome to episode 9 of the Xbox Boomer Project. This is an audio only show, so think of this as a podcast or something to listen to in the car. Like I said, just like an audio show. And real quick before we get started, I do want to just make a note that I've been up for a long period of time, and I'm kind of resetting my schedule to work nights right now, and so I have a very raspy voice, and so you'll have to kind of bear with me here because I've been working outside all day, and all kinds of fun misfortunes. But yeah, this episode is about Turok 2008 for the Xbox 360. And I do have to clarify, because there are several different Turok games. And I'll tell you about that here in just a little bit. But yeah, this is for Turok 2008 for the Xbox 360, PS3, and Windows PC. And so, Turok is a first-person shooter. It was originally going to be called Turok Rebirth, and we'll get into that here. But while I was doing some research on Turok, I actually found out the developer is a studio called Propaganda Games. And I was kind of racking my brain. I was thinking, like, where have I heard of Propaganda Games before? Have I ever heard of them? And the answer pretty much is no. So, Propaganda Games is a relatively small studio, or at least it was during the making of this game. And the only other game they actually worked on and produced was a game also for the Xbox 360 that I haven't played called Tron Evolution. And that's based on the Tron movie with the little light cycles and the throwing discs and all that. And I might even be wrong because I haven't even seen the movie. But yeah, if you know the game Tron Evolution, the same people who made that game made Turok. Now, I was looking on the game case, and I do have the game complete in box in front of me. So I'll tell you about the case here in a minute. On the game case, in the front right-hand corner, it says Touchstone. And so I looked that up because I've never heard of Touchstone either. So I was like, well, is that the developer of the game? Is that the publisher? Like, I have no idea. Touchstone Games was, in fact, the publisher of Turok. And something weird as hell that I actually found when I was doing some digging is that Touchstone Games is just another name for Disney Interactive. So Disney actually owns the developer of Turok, which is really, really cringy. Because if you know anything about the Turok, franchise, or the games, they are extremely violent. I mean, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of killing. It's like brutal deaths too, of like stuff exploding into paste and guts and red mist. Yeah, basically, damn Disney Channel produced this game. And I would assume that's why the studio is called Touchstone Games and not Disney Interactive. Because it would be really weird for the same people who, put out like I don't know, like Frozen, the kids movie, would make Turok, you know? Like I just can't imagine a world where that would be possible. But yeah, you might find that kind of interesting that you're basically playing a killing game that was made by Disney. So that yeah, times were wild back in 2008, man. Like I said, this game did come out in 2008, and I want to set the stage here in a minute and tell you a little bit about that. But as for this cover art of the game, so like I said, I do have the game in front of me, complete in box. And this was a very happy addition to add to my collection. So I actually bought the game Turok for $5 at my local pawn shop. I got it right before the Xbox 360 price spike happened. It was just sitting there for a long time, and I had my pick of the litter on any Xbox 360 game at my pawn shop, my local pawn shop. I mean, the game does have some sticker residue on the case, so I'll have to clean up this case before I put it back on my game shelf. But really, the only thing wrong with it for $5 is that some knucklehead wrote his initials on the front of the game case. So it actually says B and J on my game case in Sharpie marker. So I don't know if that's like Ben and Jerry's ice cream or like who the hell owned this game. Brendan and Johnson. I mean, I don't know. But other than that, if you look at the game, if you're wondering if you've never seen this game case before, it basically has a scene of a jungle on the front of it, and a man is carrying like a machine gun. He's carrying like some arrows and a quiver on his back, and he has like a combat knife that's dripping blood from it. Pretty much, there's a dead dinosaur that he's almost like stepping on, and yeah, it just looks like a very manly game. It just he just killed this velociraptor with a knife, and he's ready to rock and roll. So this is you'll know it. It's a very dark green game case. The back is dark green, the front is dark green. There's just a lot of green in this game and on this game case. Now I do have the manual, and it's a very nice colored manual if you've never seen it. So it's definitely a nice game to get complete in box. And I will say for you 360 collectors out there, this game does have a registration card. I know because my game has it in there. So if you do want the actual complete in box, make sure you get that registration card for you. Now, the game does have a reversible cover art. So when you open the game case, behind the game disc, you actually see a very beautiful picture of the main character of the game, Turok, kind of like staring off into some mountains, and you're looking at like some pterodactyls flying around. So it's a very, very nice game case, and it brings back a lot of memories just holding this game and kind of, having it here in person. But yeah, that's the game we're talking about, is that dark green Xbox 360 Turok. Now this game, the Turok series, if you guys are new to Turok or never heard of it before, or this is like a one-off for you, the Turok series, as far as video games are concerned, they really started on the Nintendo 64. So, I mean, basically, well, I'll wait a little bit to tell you my experiences with this game. But there were four, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, there were four Nintendo 64 games based on the Turok franchise. So you had Turok the Dinosaur Hunter, which is that's the OG original first game. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. And that's in a very cool looking, it's like a black Nintendo 64 game cartridge. Turok 3, which I believe, I forgot the subtitle. It might be like Shadows of Oblivion or Shadow of Oblivion or something like that. I used to have those games like a long time ago. That one is the very expensive game to get out of any of the Turok games as far as I can remember. And that's also a black Nintendo 64 cartridge. And then I want to say there's the fourth entry was a multiplayer, Turok game, not so much designed for like a story mode, and that was Turok Rage Wars for the Nintendo 64. And I want to say even that game was a black game cartridge. I can't quite remember. I know one of them was rare, either the gray game cartridge or the black one for Turok Rage Wars. But yeah, if you are into retro video games, those games are out there. But kind of what I'm more interested in was the next step for the series. So after the Nintendo 64 games, Turok made the leap to, some of those more modern consoles like the GameCube, the PlayStation 2, and the Xbox. And there's an entry called Turok Evolution that you can get for those systems. And it's a very, very good game. And then there's, of course, after they made Turok Evolution, they rebooted the franchise again because Turok Evolution has nothing to do really with the Nintendo 64 games. But they rebooted the game series again for the Xbox 360, and that's what the game we're talking about today. Now there are a couple spin-off games, if you are interested in this series as like a collector or whatever. I know when I was a kid growing up, I had several different Game Boy Color Turok games, and those were like spin-offs of the main Nintendo 64 entries at the time. And there's also, I believe, a copy of Turok Evolution for the Game Boy Advance. I wanna say it was Turok Evolution. I played that as a kid too. I was, like, obsessed with freaking Turok as a kid. But yeah, so you'll see some spin-off games, and those are all in 2D, but just know the mainline entries are all pretty much first-person shooters, if you get them on your, like, main, plug into the TV type of systems. So Turok, as far as any of those games are concerned, is pretty much a dinosaur killing simulator. So this is a first-person shooter where a lot of the time you're gonna be battling and interacting with, dinosaurs. And it's very, very similar to another game on the 360 called Peter Jackson's King Kong. Or if you want to be fancy, the game is actually called Peter Jackson's King Kong, the movie, the game. And I'm not even kidding on that. But unfortunately, we can talk about that game another time. But Peter Jackson's King Kong is a very expensive game. I think that game, last I checked, was well over $60 USD. So that's kind of a hard one to buy. But the last time I looked at the price for Turok on the 360, on some eBay listings, this was probably about a year ago, the game was going for about $20. And while $20 is, I mean, it's still 20 bucks, that's a lot more reasonable price to pay for a dinosaur game. So definitely this one, you can get a hold of it still. I mean, it's kind of a sleeper because a lot of people don't know the Turok IP nowadays. Because it's been a little while since it's been around. Yeah, you can still get a hold of this game for a pretty reasonable price if you're interested. Now, I will say, as we dive into this game, this is a spoiler-free review slash audio show. So I'm not going to spoil anything crazy for you. You're not going to figure out the ending to this game or any like the main plot points by listening to this. I like to make these audio shows to where you, the listener, can go out and buy the game if you want and actually enjoy it like video games were meant to be enjoyed, without my fat lips spoiling the damn game for you. Because I've said it a million times before. I hate it when you listen to a video game podcast or show and some goober hops on there and is like, well, when you kill the final boss, this is his name. And you gotta use a chainsaw to kill the. It's like, shut up, dude. Shut the hell up. It drives me nuts. I can't. I don't know. I don't know what these people are thinking online, dude. But I'm not gonna do that to you. So rest assured, if you want to play Turok, you're gonna be able to. Okay, I'm gonna give you some fun stories, some insights, some goodies, some little nuggets. But you ain't gonna know, jack squat. Okay, you're gonna be able to play through it. Now I have to say, before we get to the story and the gameplay, because there's time for that, this game is masculine as hell. This is back in, like I said, came out 2008. That was a great year for gaming. We got a bunch of cool stuff. I think even like the first Left 4 Dead game came out in 2008, just to put this in perspective for you. But this game was back. I mean, it's filled with dudes who are just yoked. I mean, they're jacked to the freaking teeth, man. Everybody in this game has biceps bigger than their damn head. And there's just a lot of like, you know, dudes being dudes in this game. I mean, there's all this controversy on YouTube here during the making of this audio show in 2024. And a lot of YouTubers are talking about like, oh, has the game industry gone woke? And, are they taking masculinity out of games? Hell yeah, they are, dude. Go play Gears of War on the Xbox 360. Go play Halo 3 and then play Turok. And you're going to see they don't make them like they used to. This shit is not, they would cancel you so fast. Like, I mean, your freaking head would spin, buddy. I mean, I'm serious. You're gonna see some dinosaurs exploding into meat particles in this game. You're gonna see dudes frickin' using their frickin' boulder-sized biceps to rip open doors. You're gonna frickin' see dudes running around with dual SMGs, frickin' just like pasting enemies. Yeah, it's a good time. So I will say, if you miss those glory days, if you miss when when it was okay to be a dude. This game will suck you back into that era when it was acceptable to be a boy and have a pecker. But anyways, that's asides from the point. I'm just putting that out there for my homies out there. But yeah, going back to this game, if you are a fan of Jurassic Park, if you grew up as like a Jurassic Park kid like I was, where you were obsessed with freaking JP and playing with dinosaurs, you're gonna love this game, dude. There's no shortage of dinosaurs. I mean, there's not that many dinosaur related, 360 games out there, especially ones designed for adults. And this game definitely scratches that itch. I mean, you're gonna see dinosaurs and critters acting like dinosaurs and critters. They're gonna be running around the jungle and eating people and pulling them under the rug and munching them. And I mean, like I said, it's gonna be a good time. You're gonna enjoy this, buddy. Now, Turok, I did mention that first N64 set of games that came out, but that's not originally where Turok is from. So the series Turok is based on a comic book from a long time ago. I think it might have been like the 50s or the 60s. I want to go with the 1950s that the comic book came out. And it was basically a comic book revolving around Native Americans that were running around and killing dinosaurs. That was it. They were shooting them with bows and scalping them with tomahawks and stuff. I've actually had quite a bit of looky-loos at those old Turok comics. And I want to say like one of the older ones is called like Turok Son of Stone or Sons of Stone or something like that. And you can Google those, and I'm sure they're available at your local comic store if you're kind of into that stuff. Probably like 50 cents a piece, a lot of those old ones, because I remember they used to be everywhere at the freaking flea markets in town and stuff. As a little kid. But yeah, I thought it was funny, and this actually jogged my memory of Turok being a game because one of the current 2024 U.S. presidential candidates, Robert F. Kennedy, I was listening to a podcast where he was talking the other day, and I heard him talking about reading Turok the comic book as a kid, and I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "You know about Turok, dude?" you know, so it's just kind of one of those weird things that I mean, the different generations of kids all know Turok. I mean, that used to be a household name back, 20 years ago. I mean, like I said, this was a popular game franchise at one point in time. So just know that this does have some clout to it. I will say, so I did finish this game in full. Okay, I did beat this game on the normal difficulty, and there are several difficulties. There's two higher tiers of difficulty in this game. If you are looking for a challenge. But I did beat this back in June of 2024. So I beat this game about 4 months ago. Okay. I went back today and I played Turok for probably about 2 to 3 hours just to get a last taste of the game so I could know exactly what I wanted to tell you guys about and exactly like what points I wanted to make. Because that's always good to do, especially when you haven't touched a game in a long time. But I will say, my first main gripe I have to tell anyone about is that this game on the 360 anyways, I don't know about the PS3 and the PC, but on the 360, Turok does not have subtitles. There are no subtitles in this game. And that drives me crazy because I mean I typically the only games I will shut subtitles off on are typically horror games. So that way if the monster's about to jump out of the closet and eat you or whatever, you don't get spoiled to that. You don't get alerted before it happens. But I remember when I started playing Turok about, June or whenever it was, May, June of 2024 here, I would play it after work and I like to kick those subtitles on when I'm playing the game in sections because after work, I've been gone from my wife all day and I want to talk to her and, ask her like what's going on in her life, how her day was, and, what we want for dinner and all that kind of stuff. And this game pissed me off because I remember having a very difficult time talking to her while I was playing this game because the characters would keep talking and talking, and you'd hear little bits or like a, cutscene would start, and there was no subtitles. So that just made it very, very hard to, digest this game in sections. So just be aware of that. And then my second gripe that I will spoil for you right off the bat, this game makes you play on normal difficulty. There is no easy difficulty, like at all. And I had a very hard time with this game as a kid, okay? Because I was playing this game back in 2008. I had this one, buddy. I had this one back then, like pretty damn close to the release date. Like within a couple days, I had this game in my hands as a kid. It took me until this year to beat this damn game. So that's 16 years of playing this damn game to beat it, okay? It's just because they don't have an easy difficulty. And I'm going to tell you, we'll get into it later cuz I want to flesh it out a little bit for you. But the normal difficulty is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, it will absolutely tear you up and give you a run for your money. It's not one of those games you can just power through, half paying attention while you're sitting in your underpants and, eating chicken tenders. I mean, you've got to be playing this game. You're going to have to be snappy with those controls and be thinking about what you're doing while you're playing this game, even on the easiest difficulty, which is normal. So just think about that. If you're buying this and you're not that good at video games, or I don't know, you wanna buy it for your kid brother or something? This is a tough game. I couldn't beat this back then. I mean, I really couldn't, and I tried like hell. I just replay the first few missions over and over and over, and I'd get to a point where I was either scared or, where I just couldn't progress anymore, and I just keep playing the game. I just started over again. Now, memories of this game, okay? I have a deep, deep history with Turok. This is one of those games that really defined video games for me as a kid. I mean, way back. 2008, if you're not from the United States, you probably won't know this, but if you are from the US, you'll more than likely remember it because you probably lived through it. But some of my younger listeners probably, I mean, you're gonna have to pay attention here. In 2008, the US had a great recession. That's kind of what my generation of people were calling it nowadays. But it was when this game came out in early 2008, it was the peak of the housing crisis in the United States. So everybody was broke as hell. Nobody had no money. I mean, every time you turn on the television or the news, it was doom and gloom. Everybody, we have no money. And everybody's houses were worth like jack squat. Like everybody was getting screwed. My dad at the time, my parents were divorced, and it didn't really affect my dad much. But it devastated my mom. My mom had a very hard time during that Great Recession. She lost a couple jobs during that, I'm pretty sure. And she hated me playing video games as it was. And she wouldn't take my ass to GameStop for nothing. My mom hated video games, and during that period of time, she had no money for video games. So, there was very slim chances of me getting Turok during 2008. And, I mean, I was a fairly good kid. I did my schoolwork during that time and tried to make the grades if I could. I worked my ass off in school, doing whatever I could, and I ended up right when Turok was coming out, I ended up with a report card that had all A's on it. I made the honor roll, baby. You're looking at number 1 right here. All A's on my damn report card. And my dad, like I said, my parents were separated, so he lived in another state. My dad heard about my good report card, getting all A's, and he went out and he bought me Turok. And I had no idea. I didn't even know this damn game was out. Okay. And Turok just came out. My dad knew I was obsessed with Turok. He went to the store, knew nothing about video games, but he still bought Turok for 60 smackers, $60, and he mailed it to my mom's house where I was staying at the time. And he called me on the phone and said, "Hey, look in the mailbox." I went to the mailbox. I opened that damn package up, and I was holding a crystal clear, baby smooth, brand spanking new copy of Turok for the Xbox 360. And I will remember that for the rest of my damn life. Because during all this doom and gloom, I mean, during that time, I asked my mom to buy me a toy at the store. Because, like I said, it was Great Recession, and everybody, nobody had no effing money. I mean, everybody was piss ass broke, didn't have a pot to piss in. And, during that time, it was real close to that time. I remember asking my mom for a toy at the store, and she screamed at me in the checkout, and she said, "We don't have no effing money." It's a true story. Yeah, we were in the checkout of the store, and, yeah, my mom, yelled at me in the middle of the checkout, like a packed store, it was like Walmart or whatever it was. She said, "We got no effing money! The toy back!" And my mom got so embarrassed because the whole store was looking at her that we just walked out without our groceries. And that was the period of time where my dad, despite all the bullshit going on in the world, all the Obama's gonna be president, what are we gonna do? All that shit aside, I got Turok, buddy. My lucky ass got Turok. And that's what I want to tell you. I got it, buddy. So yeah, that aside. So yeah, my obsession with Turok went deeper with the games because I was always going to flea markets with my dad and swindling people out of retro video games and getting them for like pennies on the dollar. I used to collect these Turok action figures. If you look them up on eBay, you'll probably find them. But there was a lot of Turok action figures that came with guns and a lot of like Native American characters, and they all rode dinosaurs for some reason. And the dinosaurs usually had guns on them. I mean, it was pretty badass for like a kid's toy. But I had a ton of these freaking Turok action figures growing up. And I believe, if we want to be real here, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter for the Nintendo 64 was my first ever game, as far as I know. It was either that or Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. But I believe Turok the Dinosaur Hunter was the first video game I ever owned. And so I've been playing Turok for a long, long time. Okay? Ever since the Nintendo 64. Had all the games, all the damn everything. And I remember when Turok for the 360 came out. In this game, I don't know if by the time you listen to this, because I'm going to keep this up for record keeping. I don't know if the multiplayer's still going to be up and available. Because as far as I know, the PS3 version of the game no longer has multiplayer. If you do want that for the PlayStation 3. Um, but the 360 version, as of a few years ago, it did have multiplayer on Xbox Live still. But me and my buddies, when this game came out and was pretty popular, we would play the co-op maps on Xbox Live. And the co-op maps, they had 3 different maps that were like random missions that you could select in any order you wanted. And you could play them, I want to say, with 4 people. It was either 3 or 4 people. And you basically play as these random soldiers. And you just have to run and complete an objective in the game world of Turok. Whether it was like in a facility or in a jungle, or like you're shooting enemy soldiers or dinosaurs. And I remember we played this game for years. Okay, years. My buddy Alston, my buddy Dalton, I think even Jacob, my buddy Jacob played with us all over Xbox Live, all in different states. At like 3 in the morning, we played Turok on the 360. And those damn co-op maps were so hard on even the easiest difficulty, we would get our ass whooped. In probably damn 10 years of playing this game on Xbox Live, we never finished, or we might have actually finished one co-op map. That's how hard those damn missions are. We were, and maybe we sucked because we were, young kids at the time playing these co-op missions or co-op maps, I think they call them. But yeah, every time we played on Xbox Live, we'd get our ass handed to us. I mean, in a basket. I mean, this is a tough game. Don't underestimate Turok on the 360. Um, Now one last memory I'll share with you of this game. There was that James Cameron Avatar movie. I don't know when that movie came out. I'm guessing within a couple years of this game, if not the same year. But I already explained to you that my dad growing up, he wasn't a video game guy. He was one of those boomers who's like, "Oh, a keyboard, what's that?" He wouldn't even know how to move the mouse on a computer screen. And even my dad knew because I like Turok so much. When we went to see the movie, James Cameron's Avatar in theaters, that's the one with the blue monkey people running around. After we finished the movie and we're sitting there in the theater, my dad turns to me and he says, "That movie sucked. All it was Turok versus Halo people." And I don't know why all these years after I find that so funny. But my dad, because of the soldiers versus like the monkey people, there's like Native American looking monkey people in Avatar. He was like, "This movie blows. All it is Turok versus Halo people." And I don't know. He knew I was obsessed with those games growing up. So that always stuck with me. Just my dad turning to me and being like, "This movie sucks. It's just Turok." like, like what the hell, Dad? But I guess we'll hop into the game because I'm rambling and all this, whatever. I'll tell you about the game, I promise. So this game starts, okay, and it was really confusing for me as a kid because you play as a character named Turok, and that was really new to me because in one of the previous games, I believe it might have been Turok Evolution, the game right before this one, you play as a Native American named Talset, and you don't actually play as Turok. So even though the games are named Turok, you don't actually play as this person Turok. So this was, as far as I can remember, the first time I remembered seeing a guy named that. And so, yeah, in this game Turok, you're going to actually play as a dude named Turok. So the game starts, and you're pretty much on a spaceship that's flying in space. It doesn't give you much context right away. All you know is that you're this Native American named Turok, and you're going on this ship with an army to capture a man named Kane. And now, in the very beginning of the game, it's revealed to us that Kane is the one who trained Turok in all his skills in combat. So before Turok was a part of this army group, he was actually some kind of like almost like a Native American special forces, where they trained at a very elite level with knife combat and bows. So shooting like very primitive weapons and kind of like stealth killing. So you see a lot of flashbacks in this game, and a lot of flashbacks are Turok and Kane going on missions together, and Turok learning from this character named Kane. And now Kane, very early on, we discover that Kane has kind of abandoned the rest of the army and went rogue. So he's evil now, and that's why they're trying to track him down to catch him. And so that's the whole reason Turok is on this spaceship. And you're gonna see a little bit of banter from Turok, going along with all these army soldiers. And they're not treating Turok very nice in the beginning of the game, because of his background working with Kane and learning from him. But very shortly after the game starts, your spaceship is actually going to crash land and get shot down on the planet that Kane is on. It pretty much goes from trying to find Kane in this game to just trying to survive. Because when you crash on the planet, you're with quite a bit of other soldiers from Turok's army group. They realize very quick that there's monsters on this planet. I mean, this planet that you crash into, it's pretty much a jungle, and it's swarming with different dinosaurs and creatures and just very dangerous wildlife. And so everybody kind of says like, okay, yeah, forget about that Kane guy. We're just going to get the hell out of here. But it's easier said than done. And very early in the game, you're going to meet Slade. And Slade is a very prominent figure in these army soldiers, and that's because he has a heavy mistrust of Turok. Because there's some history between Turok and Slade's brother, I believe. And so, everybody knows that Turok trained with this evil traitor. And so, Turok is very unwelcomed in this army group when the game begins. And you're going to see that dynamic kind of unfold as you play, because, not a lot of these soldiers that crash land with Turok are going to have his back and are going to want to trust him. So, especially Slade, you're going to have quite a bit of interactions with him, and he's going to come around quite a bit. Now, I will say the graphics in this game are absolutely some of the best cream of the crop graphics that you can find from the year 2008. These graphics were, I mean, just phenomenal for the time period. And even going back today, they do hold up quite a bit if you're running it to your TV through an HDMI cable. Now, I told people for many years that graphics never needed to go past pretty much the 360. And this is one of those games that I feel really reinforces that point because I mean, I went back and I mean, the dinosaurs look great, foliage looks great, the characters look pretty good. Everything looks nice. And I feel like, with a lot of YouTubers, especially nowadays in 2024, a lot of them are focused on this, graphics itch. With a lot of games like with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, a lot of games are like obsessed with like, oh, what's the best graphic fidelity I can get? And games were never about the damn graphics. And I've been trying to explain this to people since effing 2008, and nobody wants to listen to me. And, you go back and pop this in your 360, you might be impressed with these graphics today. I mean, I had no problems looking at Turok on the 360. There's a couple 360 games like Condemned Criminal Origins and, some of those early Xbox 360 games that really hurt going back to because they just look very primitive. But this game, look, I mean, it holds up. Even if you've never played this back in its prime, I think this is gonna be an easy game for you to really go back to and try out. Because like I said, it didn't hurt my eyes, it didn't, cause me a headache or anything like that. It was actually pretty pleasurable to look at. So yeah, just know that, if you're thinking about picking up this game. Now the game does have a couple glitches. As I was playing for a couple hours earlier today, I did see a couple textures that were, not loading in fully. And, I could kinda see underneath the map here and there. I mean, it wasn't very often, but I definitely did find a couple sections, where I could do that. And I will say when I killed a lot of the dinosaurs and a lot of the enemies, sometimes the enemy bodies would kinda, like, do a spasm where they're kinda, like, twitching and, like, glitching out on the screen. So that is something if you're not prepared for it, you might get a giggle or two out of that if you see it. But overall, the glitches and the graphical problems were not an issue for me going back and playing this one. I will say, this is really at its core, it's a dinosaur game where you're going to be killing a lot of enemy soldiers. And the enemy soldiers, I haven't talked too much about them, but they're basically Kane's private army. So the person you're trying to track down who trained Turok, he has an army with him down on this planet where you were shot down at. And all of his soldiers that he commands are basically the equivalent of stormtroopers. So they look like stormtroopers, so they're not always very smart. They're kind of like an army of cronies, and you're going to be fighting a lot of them. So there is a lot of, shooting actual characters and not just dinosaurs in this game as well. So there's a lot of kind of like, gun versus gun combat, if you weren't aware of that. But don't let that discourage you because there are a lot of dinosaurs in this game. So you're going to have your small dinosaurs, your little baby ones. You're going to have medium-sized dinosaurs. You're going to have big dinosaurs that are going to chase you around and scare you a little bit. You're even going to have a giant T-Rex that you're going to find in this game. You got dinosaurs that can run on the walls and kind of crawl up the trees. You've got bugs, prehistoric bugs. You've got scorpions. I mean, this game is filled with a bunch of like fun, interesting, non Call of Duty type of enemies. So it's very refreshing in that sense. If you've been playing like first person shooter after first person shooter, this is going to be a change of pace for you. I mean, I think you're really going to appreciate this game. Now, the enemy troops, there are some different types. So there are enemy stormtroopers that can hold, sniper rifles and shoot you from a distance. There's some of them that are going to have chain guns, and they're going to be a little bit harder to kill, and they're going to be shooting at you with a lot more ammo. There are just the grunt troops that run around with just like SMGs and just kind of like, wander. And there's even armored, personnel carriers. I mean, you're going to see like some armored vehicles and stuff like that that might surprise you in this game. So I don't want to talk too much about the stuff that's going to really jump out at you and be a surprise. But there are some surprises, so you can look forward to that. Now, there's a lot of weapons that you yourself can utilize in this game. So there's a shotgun that you're going to get at some point, and it's basically a semi-automatic shotgun. All of the weapons, pretty much for the most part, are going to have an alternate attack as well. So in addition to just shooting the shotgun, if you hit the right bumper with the shotgun, you'll shoot flares out of it. And the flares are really special in this game because they attract the raptors or the dinosaurs. So if you shoot a flare at an enemy soldier, a dinosaur will a lot of times come out of a bush next to him and he'll get eaten. So that's pretty cool. There's the standard SMG in this game, which you're going to find a lot of and fight with quite a bit in the beginning. And the SMG kind of sucks balls. The alternate attack on that, if you hit the right bumper, that's going to be putting a silencer or a suppressor on the end of your SMG and taking it off. But I didn't have much of a use for that. There weren't many sections of the game where I actually used the suppressor or like felt like I had to. There is a pulse rifle in the game, and that's almost like the assault rifle of the Turok world. It's very versatile. You can use it against dinosaurs or the people, and you'll find quite a bit of ammo for that pulse rifle. But the alternate attack on the pulse rifle is very cool because you almost shoot these arcing blue balls, and they shoot very fast. You can shoot, quite a bit of them at once, and it's basically like a pulse grenade. And so you find quite a bit of ammo for it later in the game, and it can be really helpful clearing out a lot of enemies at once. There's a sticky orb launcher, or just like a sticky launcher in this game. And that one, if you hit the right trigger, your shooting trigger, that one is going to shoot out almost like this sticky orb. So you can stick, walls, you can stick dinosaurs with it, you can stick, the enemy stormtroopers. And if you hit the right bumper again, or excuse me, the right trigger, your orb that you stuck on whatever character will explode. So it's pretty much like a grenade launcher that sticks to your enemies. There is the combat knife in this game, which is it's almost like a hunting knife style of knife, a very large knife. And that you will almost always have on Turok, and you can do stealth kills with the knife. And that's very important in this game because if you hit the right bumper, Turok will just slash his enemy and it won't do much damage. But if you're able to get behind any of the enemies in this game for the most part and hit that right trigger with the knife, almost like a little cinematic will play where Turok is going to instantly kill that enemy with the knife. But you can only activate the knife kill if you see the button prompt on the screen. So it's very tricky because that button prompt of hit the right trigger can go away very quick if the enemy is moving a lot, and it can get you killed pretty easily if you try to get a lot of knife kills. Now, there is, of course, a bow. Like I said, Turok was trained in primitive weapons, and the bow is a pretty good weapon throughout all of the game. You do have to hold the right trigger for a couple seconds for him to get full power out of the bow shot. Otherwise, if you tap the right trigger to shoot arrows quickly, the bow doesn't really do that much damage. So you do have to hold the right trigger for him to pull the bowstring back all the way to get the maximum power. But the bow is very nice because he does zoom in quite a bit with it. So it's almost like a scope. So you can see pretty far with the bow and get some pretty decent shots long range with it. There are frag grenades that you can throw with the left bumper, and those are pretty powerful. Any of the explosives in this game feel really, really good, and you're gonna want to use them quite a bit during those like hectic sequences of the game. There's a flamethrower that you're gonna get quite a bit later into the game, and that's better against some enemies instead of others. So you want to be selective when you're using the flamethrower. And the alternate attack on that is almost like a flame grenade that your flamethrower shoots. There is a rocket launcher you're going to be using in a lot of the boss fights in this game. And I will warn you, the right bumper does activate almost like a scoped like targeting mechanism for the rocket launcher. And you're going to want to remember that because a lot of the boss fights, I did not know that you could activate an alternate aiming mechanism for the rocket launcher. And that makes a lot of the boss fights a little bit easier. Now, there is a scoped rifle. If you like run around with like your sniper rifles, it does zoom in quite a bit. So that is one of the more favorable weapons for me in this game was using the scoped rifle because it was really good against everything in this game. But in addition to that, there's also turrets in this game. There's going to be like minigun turrets that can overheat. And so, and you can actually in this game get a chain gun yourself that Turok can carry around with him that will take ammunition. And there's even pistols in this game. Just like a really crappy little handgun that you can use if you run out of ammo. So there's a lot of weapons in this game. And some of the weapons can be dual wielded, almost like in Halo 2, if you've played that game for the original Xbox. So yeah, like some of your SMGs, some of your pistols, smaller weapons mainly can be dual wielded, and we'll talk about that here. But yeah, a lot of your controls, it's pretty standard first person shooter controls. I mean, yeah, some of it's mapped a little weirdly. You've got right trigger to shoot. This is the standard controls. Left trigger is going to be your zoom or your aim. There's not aim down sights, but there is a zoom mechanism in this game. The right bumper for the most part is going to be your alternate attack with whatever weapon you have out, and then the left bumper is going to be for your hand grenades. You use the Y button. Turok can crouch down into a lower stance, but he does move a lot slower when you're crouched. So be aware of that. The B button is going to be your interact button. So Turok can actually like pry open a lot of broken doors in this game by hitting the B button, and then he can also climb a lot of vines to get to higher areas and progress the story. You can jump in this game, so by hitting the A button, Turok will perform a jump. But there's also a rolling mechanic, and so if while you hit the A button if you press the left thumbstick either to the left or the right, Turok will perform a dodge roll. And that's pretty much used. to get out of the way of dinosaurs if they're jumping on you. And then, of course, the X button is just to reload your guns. Now, you do have control with the D-pad. So the D-pad is kind of like your weapon wheel in this game. It's a very interesting system. So the weapons are all mapped to the D-pad. So like the right and the left arrow are going to be your main weapons. And you're going to click it once in that direction if you just want to pull out one weapon. Let's say you have two smaller guns, so you have two SMGs. If you hit that arrow twice to the left or right, you can actually dual wield your guns. So you have that option to pull out one or just two of them. And then the last thing I'll mention to you is that if you ever get lost in this game, you can click down the left stick, and that will show you an objective arrow of where you're supposed to go. And if you don't have the arrow in this game, because there are a couple points in this game where you're going to have to find out where to go on your own, it will at least show you on the screen what your current objective is. So that's a really nice feature to have in this game. It's pretty reasonable for first person shooter. Now I will say a lot of the environments in this game, you're going to be running around the jungle a lot. A majority of this planet that you've crash landed on is going to be just all vines and greenery and just like jungle environment and mountains. So you're going to see a lot of green in this game. When you do find structures, a lot of them are just big gray industrial buildings. This was that period in time in gaming where there was a lot of green, a lot of gray, a lot of brown, just dark colors. And there's a lot of dark gray in this game of just like every structure is gray, every doorway is gray, every ammo box is gray. I mean, it's a little samey, but this is such a short game, it really didn't get too repetitive. So I think you'd be able to stick it out. And then the last kind of area you're going to be in this game is kind of like underground, like mine areas, where there's a lot of like caves and a lot of like stalagmites or stalactites or whatever the hell those things are called, the little pointy rocks. So yeah, you're gonna be outdoors in a lot of this game, or in big gray buildings. That's kind of this what this game has to offer. And there's a couple little twists in a few sections that you'll see other stuff. But I will say, as far as the environment's concerned, they did a wonderful job on the rain effects of this game. The actual rain particles coming down on the screen, they look phenomenal. And the vegetation in the grass, the way it moves with the wind blowing and by walking through it is just wonderful. I mean, it looks very realistic for the time period and just very, very good. So I'll really give them a thumbs up on that stuff. Now, like I mentioned earlier, that this game does encourage Turok to use bow and knife quite a bit. I mean, they really push for you to do those the stealth kills in some of those sections, because the story plays quite a bit off of Turok's Native American kind of training that he's received from Kane. So you're going to see that theme a lot through the game. But I will say, a lot of the dinosaurs in this game, if not all of them, can pounce on Turok. So at any time while you're shooting at them or you're fighting them with the knife, trying to get one of those right trigger prompts to pop up to kill them, because you can do that on the dinosaurs as well. These dinosaurs are going to pounce Turok, and they kind of trigger like a quick time event. So if a raptor jumps on you, it'll be where Turok's laying on the ground and a raptor's trying to bite him in the face, and Turok's holding his jaws, with his hands, to kind of stop the dinosaur from biting him. And you're gonna have to click real quick. You're gonna grab your controller and go left trigger, left trigger, right trigger, and you're just gonna be firing away with your damn thumbstick or your damn triggers, trying to get this dinosaur off you. And there are a lot of button pressers with the thumbsticks and with the triggers in this game. And usually, if you successfully fend off a dinosaur, Turok will either kick him off of him, kick the dinosaur away, or sometimes you will get an instant kill. So if you do the button presser right, let's say it wants you to wiggle the thumbsticks. So you go, okay, left thumbstick, right thumbstick, left thumbstick, right thumbstick. If you do that successfully, Turok will pick up the dinosaur and snap his neck over your knee and throw him away like a piece of garbage. And so, there's a lot of pretty brutal melee kills in this game if you do the button pressers right. So, in addition to those knife kills, you can also do like a counter kill with the quick time events that pop up. And even, there are a couple like passive dinosaurs walking around in this game that don't really hurt you unless you mess with them. And a lot of little annoying dinosaurs that just bite you but don't do any damage to Turok, really. You can just grab any of those by pressing the right trigger at the right time. You can pick up any of those little baby dinosaurs, and Turok will just cut their neck and throw them to the ground like a freaking turd. It's crazy. I mean, this game is a bloody game, and the minute the game gives you control with the knife, you're gonna find yourself just running around these open levels and just freaking stabbing the shit out of any dinosaur you see like walking around eating grass. I mean, this is like one of those Grand Theft Auto style games where if you want, you can just run around and murder every dinosaur, and the game doesn't even care. I mean, I think if you did that now, they'd probably get you for animal abuse or something. But yeah, this game, it's got some fun little surprises like that just, I mean, just real interactive stuff, where it was interesting. It was something new that they thought of, and I really appreciate the melee combat in this game because it's unique. I will say though, sometimes when the dinosaurs do pounce Turok, Turok's ass goes flying. I mean, he goes flying across the damn screen. You're gonna be in first person, and you will see his little baby legs kicking through the air while he's flying like 30 feet, away from where the dinosaur pounced him. So that was a constant struggle in this game because when the dinosaurs attack, most of the time they're gonna send, Turok just shooting across the screen. And I will say, while I can appreciate the little detail that you see Turok's feet, whenever he's like walking around, you can look down and see his feet. When he's flying through the air, you can see him kicking his legs. That was pretty cool for a 360 game. But it was very annoying to be flying through the damn air every 30 seconds because a raptor jumped on me. A lot of times you get caught in that animation when you get surrounded by like 30 raptors. And I mean, not literally 30, let's say like four raptors, and they're all pouncing the shit out of you. One will send you flying, and Turok does like a 5-second animation to pick himself up off of the ground. And you can get pounced by a second raptor or a third raptor while he's picking himself up, and then you can just get caught in this loop until you die and have to restart the checkpoint of just getting pounced by these raptors. And that was some cheap bullshit in this game. I will say, whenever you do die in Turok, while you're being shot even, there's a significant amount of red covering the edges of your screen to the point where it's very, distracting and annoying. I mean, you can hardly tell what the hell's going on because there's so much red around the edges of your screen. And then when you get hit by a gun, like if you're aiming, let's say you're aiming at a dinosaur and some guy shoots you that was hiding behind a rock, Turok flinches quite a bit to the point where you're going to completely miss whatever the hell was in your crosshairs. And that was very annoying. The flinching dynamic when you're being hurt in the game, I mean, it is obnoxious. It is like playing Call of Duty on veteran, and you get hit, and you just can't you see what the hell you're doing. I mean, it was very obnoxious. So I just want to reiterate the difficulty of this game because, like I said, I played on normal. You're gonna get your ass handed to you in a paper bag several times in this game. and by just average run of the mill enemies. I mean, this is not like super enemies or mini bosses or anything like that. This is like your average grunt troop. If you come around the corner and he gets you caught in that red circle, flinch reflex, he's gonna kill you. I mean, you cannot run past your enemies in this game because you will not be successful. I mean, you're gonna be taking cover and hiding behind rocks and just peeking your little nose hairs out to try to get a shot. I mean, you're not gonna be, running like it's Halo 3 and running up to people and smacking them in the head. I mean, that's a very bad strategy for this game. This game really needs an easy difficulty. I mean, it really, really does. I can't believe they didn't put that in there. Now, there are several different boss fights in this game, and I'm not gonna spoil any of them for you because they're very cool. We'll say that. They are very, very cool boss fights. Almost all of them. You say there's one I'm not really fond of, but almost all of them were very cool and exciting to get to, but they are all very, very hard. Those boss fights are where you're really gonna get your ass whooped. There's one of them. Well, I'll let you discover them. You just know you're gonna have to play dirty and play rough, because there were a couple. This is one of those games. It's another one of those games where I shelved this damn thing for quite some time. I mean, I was coming back to it, play it for, a couple days after work. I get to a new boss fight. He whoops my ass, and then I put it away for 2 weeks and pull it back out. I mean, it was one of those kind of games. I will say, you know, there were a couple bosses that don't give you much direction. I'm thinking of two in particular, and I had to look them up on YouTube. I mean, I ran around the damn level trying to find out what the secret was, what the little key was to success, and I could not, for the life of me, find out how to freaking kill these bosses and or how to escape them. And you may find yourself on the freaking Google box trying to figure out how to beat these damn things. So don't think there's a couple tricky parts in this game. And like I said, you're gonna get pissed off a little bit. Just make sure you don't throw your controller because them damn things are expensive. Now this game, I mentioned once that it's not a very long game. So I remember, I mean, there was a couple sections I had troubles with, but I, for the most part, beat this game in like, 30 minute to hour long segments playing after work. When I was tired and just, not in a good headspace, I just popped in Turok and was playing it in chunks. So this is a game that you could do that with fairly easily. Play little bits of it. Like there's little chapters. And so, you can play like one chapter a day after work and find yourself getting through it okay. But I looked online and roughly this game's about 7.5 hours long. 7.5 to 8 hours. So if you played it for an entire Saturday or something when you were home, off work or summer vacation or whatever the hell you got going on, you could chop through it and be done with it and say you did it. So, yeah. I will say for all of your effort, I have to give applause to Turok because this was actually a pretty satisfying ending. There's a couple games that, especially on the 360, like Lollipop Chainsaw, where the ending was just freaking unacceptable. I mean, just straight up trash, dude. And this is not one of those games, in my opinion. You're gonna get through this. It's a very linear story game. You're gonna have a purpose. You're gonna see it through till the end, and you're gonna hit those credits and be like, okay, game's over. I did what I had to do, seen what I had to see, and let's wrap it up. But I do remember because by the end of this game, I was really starting to like Turok. Okay. It was hard to get into at first, but once I played it a little while, it became part of my after work routine. Pop in Turok, play it an hour or so, be done with it. Play it for 30 minutes, be done with it. And I was starting to really like it. And I waited a long time to beat this because when this game came out, I sucked at video games. I couldn't beat it. And so when I finally did, I was kind of at a loss because I was like, well, it was like one of those games like when I beat Metal Gear Solid 3, I was like, what the hell do I do now? It's all over with. I wasn't ready for it. And so I mean, I guess it is a relatively short game. So just know that it's very linear. It's just a story mode. You're going to go level to level to level, blah blah blah. And that's a mouthful, and you're gonna beat the damn thing and just that's it. It's like running through a Call of Duty campaign. Yeah. So I just wasn't prepared for that. But I will say, as one last note, beating this game, the final boss is gonna be a biatch. When you get to that final boss, good luck, buddy. Good luck. That's one of the sections you're gonna be looking on YouTube. You're gonna be freaking scouring the internet. So good luck. I am telling you right now, you are going to need YouTube. I'm telling you. You're gonna either look up a walkthrough or you're gonna go on YouTube. I'm telling you. Because I didn't know what the hell to do. So I don't think you are either. I mean, if you did, more power to you. But I thought while it was rewarding, that last boss fight in this game, that was rough. That was rough. I mean, they were very intentional on everything they gave you and everywhere they placed everything. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. I appreciated it, but it whooped my ass. So I'll let you get to that when you get to it. Now, this game I have to mention to you because I mentioned I had this when it came out. I was playing it on Xbox Live for years. I mainly played the co-op maps. That's what all me and my buddies bought this game and played it for was the co-op maps because, they were fun. I mean, they were fun and they were challenging. It was kind of one of those things back in the day where like just like Call of Duty Zombies, there's no way to win and you just get your ass whooped every time. Turok was just like that. We knew we weren't going to finish a co-op game, but we played it anyways, over and over and over again. But this game also had an Xbox Live PvP multiplayer mode where you could run around and shoot other players and whatnot. And I played this a couple times, but I don't really remember it much. But what I do remember is one key detail that I have to give the game developers an applause for. In the multiplayer mode, where you're all running around, shooting each other with machine guns and shotguns and rifles, there are dinosaurs running around in the multiplayer mode. Don't even tell me that's not badass. That is freaking badass. To have a Call of Duty style multiplayer mode where you're killing other players and there's dinosaurs running around eating people, that's freaking sweet. I don't know why I'm sure it's dead nowadays if the servers are even up for it. I'm sure there's just not much activity on Xbox Live anymore for this game, but I don't know how something like that could go overlooked. I mean, that's freaking awesome. So I just had to tell you about that. There's freaking dinosaurs in the multiplayer mode of this game. Now, I will say, if you are interested in this game, once upon a time, when this was released, there was going to be a sequel called Turok 2. Immediately after this game released, this is what I found online. This game was a commercial success. But due to so immediately they started on a sequel called Turok 2 because they knew they wanted another Turok game. But because like I said, it was 2008, there's a lot of financial stress on everybody, even the game companies. There were a large amount of layoffs at the studio that made this game, and they canceled Turok 2. And that freaking sucks. I mean, that's very, very sad because, I mean, I'm gonna just spoil it for you. My opinion. I did like this game, and I grew up with this game. I mean, I really like Turok, all the Turok games, and their different ways. And I want a sequel to this game. So yes, yes. Would I recommend this game? Absolutely. The graphics hold up today. If you pop it in 2024, 2025, it's not going to be an eyesore. It's very, pleasing to the eyes. It's a relatively short game that's linear and pretty easy to run through within, an 8-hour day. And, the gameplay feels good and it feels modern. It feels like a modern game. You don't have wonky controls like freaking Pirates of the Caribbean on the Xbox. I mean, it's like a normal game. It just is such a freaking hidden gem on the 360. I mean, I don't know what this game costs nowadays for collectors to buy, secondhand. But this is a very, very unappreciated game for what it is. And if you haven't played it and you're a 360 collector, I would say you should probably snag this one. Get you a nice copy, complete in box, with no poop stains, no freaking pubic hairs in it, and play it and let me know if it sucks. Um, I will warn you, achievement hunters out there. This game does skimp on the achievements. So if that is something that determines what games you're playing, because back in the day, achievements were huge for a lot of us. We love them freaking gamer score points. Um, but this game, I beat the whole game, from beginning to end. And I want to say it gave me like 130 or 140 gamer score for the entire game, and that is not a lot. I mean, I remember that being a deciding factor back in the day of why we didn't play this game a whole lot. Because there wasn't much gamer score you could really get unless you played the PvP multiplayer. So I do remember that. But yeah, this game, like I said, this game really needs a sequel. um, Unfortunately, if because I think they did close down that studio that developed this game, the one that Disney Interactive owned. But I do think if they did Turok nowadays, they would have to do a reboot because, like I said, it's been 16 years since this game came out, and this game was already the second reboot of the Turok video game franchise. And so this would now be if they rebooted Turok for, the Series X or the PC or whatever, this would be the third time they're rebooting this game. And, I just don't know if they would do that. And I don't even know who owns the rights to this damn game series anymore. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's still Disney, you know? But I mean, I'm so tired of all these game developers. It seems like all we get nowadays is freaking reboot after reboot after reboot. No one wants to cater to us old bastards anymore and give us actual sequels. They all want to be like, "Oh, you want more Resident Evil? We'll just make the same game again. Resident Evil 4, here you go. Oh, you liked Dead Space? You want Dead Space 4, buddy? Let me give you the shitty reboot. Dead Space. Hoo hoo hoo." It's like sickening. It's like you freaking money hungry bastards. You know, I'm tired of buying the same damn game over and over and over again. I was tired of that freaking trend on the Xbox One, and I see they're just carrying it over full force on the Series X. So it's like, that's why I gave up on modern games. I know I'm ranting at this point, but it's like, F it. I'm just gonna go play the good shit on the 360. It ain't even worth my time. But yeah, I'll say in closing, if you did like this game or you're interested in it and you've already played it or what have you, or maybe you just beat it, you might like those older Turok games as well, especially Turok Evolution on the original Xbox, the GameCube, PlayStation 2. That was a very underrated game, and I want to say it's only like $10 or $15 nowadays for a complete in-box copy. A very good game with very cool physics and a very cool engine. Another game that is very similar that just jumps out when I think about Turok for the 360 is Peter Jackson's King Kong, the movie, the game, for 360. That game also has a lot of dinosaur sections in it. The movement is also very similar to Turok, and it's all in first person, believe it or not. Yes, there is a King Kong video game that's a first person shooter, which is freaking nuts. But that is a great game. The only downside is that game is expensive as hell. So if you have a RGH Xbox 360, I would be getting me a free copy. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink. But yeah, so just, if you like this, play the old Turok games, play King Kong. I think those are some good dinosaur games for you. And yeah, I guess that's all I got on this one. So run through it, give it a shot, and don't let the age really discourage you because it was a good game back then, just very hard for a kid to play, and it's a pretty good game now. And I just wish we'd get more Turok. It sucks. But yeah. I mean, thank you for watching this, and tuning in. I'm looking for double digits. Next one will be episode 10 of the Xbox Boomer Project. And thank you for listening. God bless you and your family. Have a great day.